Okay, Susie, it's really lovely to see you. I'm here with my friend Gillian, who will later paint your portrait. So we're going to keep today's chat really wide open because your story is so amazing. And if you don't mind just starting wherever you want to and just telling us your incredible story, because I want as many people as possible to hear it. And I'm so grateful that you're in the show.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. So nice. And it's lovely to be that side of the world. So 4 years ago, I was told I had 3 weeks to live, which was shocking. I had been behaving strangely. I went to see a friend, for example, in my village for coffee, and we went there regularly, a few times a week. And I was an hour late. And she said, Susie, why are you so late? You're always on time. I said, I forgot where to come. And she said, you have been acting a bit strange. You need to get checked out, and I'm going to take you. And I said, no, it's okay. And she's very strong and wouldn't take no for an answer. Bundled me in the car, took me off to hospital. I had a brain scan, and a huge brain tumor was diagnosed. I had brain cancer and a massive tumor. And they said, just doesn't look good. You know, basically, people don't survive this. And you've got about 3 weeks. Get your family here immediately. Don't hang around. So everyone was in action stations. And I kind of went inside myself. And I thought, you know what? This is not my story. I am not going to die. I haven't finished here yet. I just knew that. And so did my son. But everyone else just thought that was it. And so I began this crazy story of thinking I've got 3 weeks left on the planet. And what do you do if you just got 3 weeks left? And people were being very kind to me. Great community of people came together on a WhatsApp group. 45 friends came together to look after me. Food, my house, my business, my son, my family. They were just helping in every area of my life. And I hadn't realized how important community is until this happened. You know, I was in hospital with my hand out, drips going in, injections, blood tests, constant mayhem, and I really couldn't do very much. And what happened was I became really creative, really hyper. It was almost like I lost my normal mind and got connected in a higher level. And all these ideas are dropping in. In my hospital room, I had all these big drawings of films I wanted to make, books I wanted to write. I mean, I'm an author anyway, and I write books, and I was commissioned just before I got ill to write this book, The Art of Creativity. And ironically, when I got really ill, I became my most creative self, which was strange. But I just felt ideas pouring in. It was like the channel I had with the realm that gives us inspiration just opened really wide. And I became incredibly hyper, talking really fast, wanted to do lots of things. I guess in the back of my mind, I had this aching question. Was I going to die? And the thing is, I didn't really mind. And then one day I was sitting on my bed, about to meditate. I meditate every day. And I was in hospital, and I sat down and started to meditate. And I felt this tug at my, let's call it spirit. I felt this tug at the top of my head, and I felt like my spirit, the me bit of me, wanted to leave through the crown of my head. And it was like having a hoover here, and it sucked me out of my body, and I suddenly left my body. And I've subsequently discovered this is called a near-death experience. I'd never heard of this before. I flew out of my body, I came out of my body, and I told the nurses just before this happened, I think I'm going to die today. Suze, we've got you covered. You'll be fine. Don't worry. And I said, no, keep an eye on me. And I went back into my room, and then this happened. And I left, and I saw the other side of life. It was like the dying process. And people say to me, so what was that like? And I can tell you, and it's very comforting, the answer of what it's like on the other side, which I got to see it. It was like I died. And it was beautiful. It was like a cosmic journey, a starry sky, where everything felt peaceful. Everything was calm. I felt completely looked after, felt completely at peace. It was a beautiful experience, and I had no fear in this place. I just felt love. I felt unconditional love for myself and for everyone. And I learned some really important things. And one of them was that there is no you and me. There's one. We are all part of this one. Now, I'd read, as many of us have, this concept of everything being one, but I saw it and I experienced it for myself. And that changes the view of the world in many ways, because with it, I can no longer understand the concept of war. I can no longer understand the concept of racism. Can no longer understand the concept of killing others for any reason whatsoever. If we are all one, then the rules of the game change, or rather get shifted, and we make different kind of decisions. As you can see, here I am, alive and kicking. That's 4 years later. So I survived. And what happened? I had a choice. I was given a choice. And this intuitive sense came over me. You have a choice. You can go back to your body. You can go back to your life. Or you can stay here. That was quite a big thing. But I am a mum, and a single mum. And I knew that my son needed me. And I definitely wanted to come back. Even though this place was joyous. So I'm speaking to a lot of people who are going through cancer, or have loved ones who are going through cancer. And I can give a comforting wrap on this situation. I can no longer say to people, I am sorry that someone died, because there's nothing for me to feel sorry about. It's a beautiful experience when we're out of the body. So it's absolutely wonderful. It's divine. And having a body is great, and having no body is even greater in many ways. So for me, it was a kind of life, death, life situation, life again. I began reading books about this. There's some many excellent books on near-death experiences, and I've interviewed and podcasted a lot of the near-death writers, and very familiar commonalities come out when people have near-death experiences. One of the common aspects is coming back with no fear. And that's certainly the case with me. I came back into my body with a white flash, and I healed. In that moment of coming back into my body, bam, my tumor went. So I had another scan after this experience. And in that scan, it was found that the tumor had completely gone and there was no scarring. When the doctor came back, this is at Cambridge University Hospital, one of the leading oncologists, one of the most distinguished doctors in the field of what I had, he said to me, I've never seen this before in all my years of doing oncology. I've never seen this result. It looks like a miracle. We're not in the business of miracles in the hospital. And I laughed and I said, well, that's funny, because I am in the business of miracles. And he didn't kind of get what I was saying, and that's okay. But I knew that it was this experience that saved my life and meant that I had, they call it, he said to me, it's full remission. You are essentially out of here. It's completely healed. Yeah, we need to check on you in a little while, but essentially it's gone. And the most unusual thing of all is there's no scarring to say it was ever there. So this was an extraordinary spiritual event. And I had lived a life linked into my spiritual world with my meditation, with connection, with prayer, with visualization, with understanding what I understood before, with there's a bigger force. But going through this experience, I know for sure there is a bigger force than us at work. And maybe we're not meant to understand it, but for sure it's there. And just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's not there. Just because it's not able to be researched, measured, and put into a scientific data, for me, that's not important. I know what I saw, and I saw the other side of life, and I saw and felt and understood that we are completely looked after in this lifetime. We need faith. We need connectivity to this thing. And it was interesting that art, creativity, words, I'm a writer, loads of words were coming out. As I got more and more connected with the divine, with this big, larger force, whatever we want to call it. And I know that it triggers a lot of people, the words that people use for this bigger force. I'm not going to get into all of that. It doesn't matter. For me, we're talking about a concept. We're talking about a concept of, is it just us rattling around in our bodies with bones and skin and faces? And is that it? Or when you look at flowers growing out there in nature, when you look at the big oak trees growing in nature, when you watch a sunset or a sunrise or a sunset, you have to ask the question, what is going on here? Who's driving this bus? What's going on? And for me, I don't think we're even meant to really understand it. We can certainly ask questions. What is it that is this big force? And for me, it doesn't really matter what the answer is, because we all have our own answers. And for me, that's all fine. What's the important thing is what we learn and what we feel and what we take out of life. For me, it's about being kind. It's about managing our emotions, letting go of grief, hatred, fear, all these low frequency emotions, and living life with the higher ones, which are things like love, compassion, gratitude, thanks, bliss, joy, laughter, happiness, all of these high frequency emotions. The more we do that, it seems to me, the better life is, the better life goes. So I got to learn very many things: the importance of community, the importance of family, the importance of helping each other, and the importance of intentions. What I realized, for example, when I was asked, do you want to come back into your body? And I set the intention, yes, absolutely, 100%. I want to come back. Bam! I was back in straight away with this flash of white light, which ultimately was my curing moment, my moment of letting go of disease. And for me, my disease was about unresolved hurts, unresolved emotions, things that needed to clear in my karmic line, perhaps through the family. Perhaps I've done the family a service by being able to resolve some of these deep things, which reminds me to tell another very important story, what happened. There was one person in my family who I had big resentment of, big upset with, a huge fallout. I couldn't speak to that person. I was angry with them. I was upset with them. And I thought I could never heal this, even though it's an important member of my family. This person came into my hospital room as I was supposedly dying, and they were told she's going to go any minute. So there was no longer time to hang on to our resentment of one another, or if we were going to resolve this, it had to be now. there is probably going to be no tomorrow or the next day to sort this out. So we were forced into, although we didn't think about it in this way, what happened was he came in, we talked, we saw each other. He looked at me with the face of, I may never see you again. I looked at him with the face of, I may never see you again. He cried, I cried, and in those tears, bam, healed. I thought that was impossible in my lifetime to get this dynamic healed, and it healed instantaneously because there was a belief that I was going to go, and he didn't want me to go with this left. So my take is, if you have anything that you need to say, if you have anything that you need to resolve, now is the time. That's a really important lesson. And there are many other lessons. I'm actually writing a book at the moment about the lessons I learned. And I will never be the same again. I see the world very differently. I love nature. I love animals. I love every human being, even the ones that irritate and aggravate and so on. I can see the beauty and the divine lusciousness of this richness we find ourselves in, with this landscape of many, many different forms of characters, colors, ideas that rattle us, all of that. Let's just allow, surrender, and accept, and carry on the best way we can with good feelings. And I think when we learn that important lesson in life, things get a bit easier. Another lesson is we design our lives. Our thoughts are powerful and creative. We design our life by the way we think, by the way we feel. Emotions that are evoked in us. Art is a good example. I'm a big fan. I mentioned art a few times. I'm a big fan of art and creativity. My last book was The Art of Creativity. I just realized, I'm combining those favorite words, art and creativity, together. For me, as human beings, if I'm asked, what's our purpose? Our purpose is to be extraordinary. And I think art and creativity take us into a road of being able to open up our senses and to really connect with this big thing that's out there and feel the feelings. And through that, we have divine inspiration. Some people paint, some people write, some people dance, some people whatever. And it's in all of us. And I'm very aware that education knocks it out of so many of us. I recently rewatched the brilliant Ken Robinson on TED talking about, does creativity in schools, is that what kills creativity? Yes. Because all of my research and experience and intuition is that we all have this well of creativity within us. And it's often drummed out of us as kids. So I think it's our responsibility as grown-ups to bring that back into life, encourage people to get involved with art, to see art, to get their responses to art and creativity, and to do it themselves, to get into the creative thing. It could be growing beautiful plants in your garden. It really doesn't matter. And it's not about having it judged. It's about the doing and the enjoying and the being inspired and sharing ideas with others.
Can I ask a question? Because obviously I've spoken to you a few times, and there's another part of your story that was, and I agree with, everything you've just said has really moved me, and I agree completely about everything. And I'm incredibly inspired by what you say. But there was another part of your story that was just unbelievable. When you went back to Ibiza, will you tell that part?
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that was extraordinary. So I have a home in Ibiza. I come from England originally. My family are in Cambridge, and that's where I got my treatment. And when I was given the all clear, the first thing I wanted to do was get on a beach in Ibiza with my friends and be normal, have an ordinary day, nothing special, just being free out of a hospital room where I could go and eat what I want, drink what I want, say what I want, be around who I want to be, and not be pestered for blood and, you know, tests all the time. So I booked when I got the all clear, the very first thing I did was book a flight back to Ibiza, to my happy place. So this is December, and I got diagnosed in April. So I spent all these months, April to December, really in a hospital room or staying with my family, being looked after and recovering. As soon as I was allowed, I nipped off and came to Ibiza, and I arrived, and it was around Christmas time in December, and friends were having a Christmas party the night I arrived. And I went to the Christmas party and saw friends I hadn't seen for ages, friends who thought they would never see me again. And I had a wonderful time, didn't stay out late, came back with friends to my house, and there was smoke coming out of the front doors. And the house was in a forest surrounded by dry trees. And there had been a spark in the house, and the whole house had caught fire. So we arrived, I'm just fresh out of the hospital, and I see my beloved house burning down. My friend opened the doors, black smoke came out. We couldn't even get in. But what I did see was the whole house was gutted with fire. We'd only been away in the local village for a short time. And this fire had created havoc. And I knew there were gas bottles. I knew the forest was just dry timber all around, and that it could just blow at any point. So everyone was scared and wanted to get out. And eventually we did get fire crews there. It's in the middle of nowhere, this place, very hard to sort of, no address as such, it's just in the middle of a forest. So eventually firemen came after a long time. They got the fire to go. And then I spent the night in a hotel. I had nowhere to live. And the next day we came back to the house, opened it, it was just thick black smoke, really toxic. And everything I owned had been burnt. Everything had been burnt. Clothes, photographs, memories, books I'd written. I was, you know, all of this stuff all went down. And I hadn't been there myself for a few months because I'd been in hospital. So it was shocking. And then someone said, look on the floor, what's on the floor? And there was a pile of soot, thick, greasy, horrible soot, black. The walls were black. And on top, there was a tarot card. And this tarot card was unburnt, and it was sitting on top of the soot, and it was rebirth. The rebirth card. Oh, how about that? So if I didn't understand the metaphor of what this fire was doing, which is basically resetting me on every level, as indeed my brain had been brought back to zero, because I also lost all my memory, well, a lot of my memory. So I'd been reset in the most magnificent, traumatic way, and lost everything in my life in one night. Bam. Except my son. He wasn't in the house. And if I'd have been in the house, I would have been lost as well. So, of course, this is shocking. And how does one climb out of this thing of, I've lost everything. I've worked really hard all my life, got my little treasures like we all have. It's all gone. And my memory's gone. And here I am trying to rebuild a life. And now I'm homeless. What? So I had to really find every ounce of willpower and positivity I could find to get out, get myself mentally, physically, spiritually, energetically out of the situation. And friends were very generous, used my house for a month, lovely. But it wasn't my house. It was their house. And I'd been just in hospital all the time. All I wanted was my home, my kitchen, to cook some food, do very simple things. And I didn't even have a bed to lie down in. So it was shocking. And what it made me realize, what this whole journey was about, a realignment. It almost feels like this is what's happening globally right now, is that we had this pervasive pandemic that changed the world, changed people's view of the world and of themselves and of work and of relationships with themselves and each other, had a severe effect on so many people, financially and emotionally, and from a mental health point of view. The whole world was shaken. So it feels like my story is a mirror and has so many parallels with the story of what's happening on Earth right now. It feels like this major reset. It feels like traditional systems are breaking down, and they are. Financial systems, the banking, all of these things, they're all seem to be in collapse. And for me, this on a philosophical level, this feels like it's been termed the Great Reset. Yeah, it really does feel like that. And indeed, that's what happened when my house burnt down and I lost everything. I was reset. And it feels like I can put a universal shape on top of this as well, that our beautiful planet is going through this massive reset. We've had to wake up to the environmental issues crisis that's going on, the economic crisis that's going on, the emotional crisis, our ability to deal with people and how we deal with life, and the shocking behavior of some of our political leaders who will happily send young boys to war like that's okay. That is not okay. I don't want to get political here, but I think when you've been through what I've been through, you realize that sending people to die for a political reason makes no sense. Why would we do that as compassionate human beings? Makes no sense. So we need a reset, sure. And I would say I'm all about positivity, as you can tell. We've been through hell and back. Well, we're not back, but we've been through a real tough time. Everybody has. What are we learning here? What are we going to do here? What is our lesson? Because for me, life shows us lessons. My health journey that I've just explained and described and explored on top line was a lesson. And the things I learned when I went to the other side, they were life lessons. And it feels like we are all going through our own, on a micro level, our own life moments of learning big lessons. And on the macro, the globe, the planet, this beautiful planet that we all happen to have landed on at the same time, we're all going through this existential crisis. Who are we? What are we meant to be doing? How do we handle ourselves? How do we conduct ourselves? How do we look after this beautiful home that we have? Yeah, I lost my home. I do not want to lose the home that we have here as a planet, and we have to pay attention. This is like the night of the fire. This is the dark night of the soul, really, that we're going through. If we're looking at the arc of storytelling, the hero's journey, we are in the dark night of the soul. And I would say, okay, what is the dark night of the soul representing? We understand it in terms of storytelling, in terms of books and literature and films. The dark night of the soul takes us to point zero, where we have to learn the lessons that we are here to learn. So I would say to everyone right now, let's learn the lessons we need to progress in this lifetime, and keep this planet alive and kicking. There, I went off on a bit of a rant there.
Oh no, that was wonderful.
I'd like to, rather than call it the Great I mean, I know it was a reset for you, but rather than call it the Great Reset, because certain political leaders have used that in a way that I haven't enjoyed.
Yeah.
In my head, I call it and there are certain ones who are players in this world that I find very stressful to watch. But I like the idea that we're in the Great Awakening. That's what I call it.
That's a much better way of putting it. Awakening.
The reset has been used by certain political leaders just again to manipulate humans, and there's so much that I watch with the research I've been doing, which is about manipulation all the time of us, and what you've discovered on this epic journey is the divine. And I do think the world, from the work I do and what I've been receiving too, is we are in this moment of a great awakening, and within the awakening is what you said, which is we are all one. And I've been hearing that message in the work I do over and over again. You're all one. Separation is an illusion. But sometimes, obviously, as a human, you look at a human who's just done something despicable and you think, how can I be one with them? But yet everything, we have to learn from the dark. We have to learn from things that people do that we consider shocking or awful, or we learn from situations like yours, which was so shocking, but you came out the other side with so much love and warmth. Your resilience, faith, and kindness is extraordinary. Can you just talk about how you just stay light within all the stuff that's happened to you?
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling that that is who we are fundamentally. We are fundamentally beacons of light. And in some ways, there are pockets where we've lost our way collectively. And I'm talking collectively. I'm not talking about me and my story. I'm talking about us as a collective, and the fact that we do experience the light and the shade. And I I take your point about the political rhetoric. And to be honest, I don't watch news and I don't read newspapers, and I have no idea about this. I see glimpses on social media and stuff, so I kind of know what you're talking about. But I didn't pick up on that because I made a point of not absorbing negative news streams. So therefore, I don't watch the news, and therefore I'm a bit blinkered. But now you've said that, I am really so on board with that. And I think awakening that's how I'm going to reference it going forward. It is awakening. It's like the blinkers are dropping off. It's like we can see now a bit more clearly. And I think, I love the idea of a spiritual revolution and a kind of a change in things. We have to make some changes. We have to. And the big question is, well, what is the change? And this awakening idea, this becoming awake, looking at things differently, thinking, okay, we need a plan now. And we don't need the plan made by the people who are in the paradigm of what happened before, the warmongers and the elite and these sort of pockets of very wealthy, influential people who may not be doing the best for the collective. We need to kind of come up with some other answers that are actionable. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people getting on to this now, which is wonderful. And I think as an individual, we feel pretty powerless. As a collective, we are as powerful as it gets. And I think now we're all online and able to communicate with people all over the world. This makes us very powerful if we aim ourselves in a direction of goodness. And so we have a lot of power in respect of being able to make good change in the world. The important thing is that we bring in our hearts. And I think when we act through our hearts, it means that we make better choices, make better decisions. Because if I love you, I can't hurt you. I can't come up with strategies that will be bad for you. I can't. I mean, look, a good example is being a mom or having a child. The love you have for your child is so immense that you're going to make decisions pro them all the time. And if they're tough decisions and they look a bit, oof, it's because you love them. I said to my son today, I have been a bit hard on you because you've been overworking and I've been asking you to stop. And I've really been feeling tough about that. And it's tough love. The reason I'm being tough about it, saying, please don't work so crazy hours, is because I love you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't care. So this love thing, if we learn to drop from here to here, we're in the stage of love, we make good decisions. What gets you here? Creativity. Using your inspiration, using your flow, using ideas, using your voice, using your hands, feet, whatever powers your creativity into the world, use that for good.
Gillian, do you want to ask a question?
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I got a lot. Wow. Is there anything in particular? I like to include little, I guess you could call them kind of talismans or hieroglyphics, things that you find. And you did say you kind of just felt like you had a whole reset.
Yeah.
A symbol or a memory or just a story or an image of something that you feel like you kind of carry with you, that's a part of you in any way.
When I doodle, I always doodle hearts. They just pop out on the page.
I get that.
I do little hearts then, and if I'm talking to someone, I'm loving them. While they're talking, I'm doodling hearts. So I guess it's me, visualizing love or something. I mean, it's such a fundamental, universal symbol.
That is a great answer.
If you do that, everyone knows that means love. So I love that, and I think that's my little meme.
So I follow you on Instagram, and you're in Ibiza, and I noticed you've got lots of pictures of the sea and the plants, and it just looks like a really poetic, lovely life, as if you've got a very good community. Is that very valuable to you, the space that you're living in now? Hello?
It's more than important. I'm thinking, that's why I paused.
Oh, sorry.
It's more than important. For me, nature. So life is about frequency and vibration. I'm throwing frequency to you, and it's coming from my voice and my energy and everything. And that's what you're feeling and reading and hearing. And then everyone who's watching this is feeling some frequency from what we're talking about. Sure. Nature takes you into the frequency of the natural world, the world of everything, the world of the infinite, the big force we were talking about. The best way to get into this infinite feeling of all is well and connecting with this big force is being in nature. I grew up, I spent years, 20 years odd, in London, in concrete and offices and hard. And I was away from nature. Now I live in nature. I look at flowers every day. I have birds singing, and I go for walks. I go to the beach. I'm just near to the beach. So I'm in nature a lot. If I'm writing, I'll go to nature first. If I'm having a problem, I'll go into nature. And if I'm having a good time, I'll go to nature. If I want to see friends on the beach outside with picnics, and I know everyone can't get to the beach, but most places on the planet we can access some nature or animals or some form that is this infinite design. And for me, when I look at a flower, for example, or a tree or something, that sacred geometry that we witness, and a friend of mine who's a quantum scientist, a physicist, one of the cleverest boffins I know, told me that one way to raise the frequency, and he's shown this in his university lab, is to look at sacred geometry. When we look at the form of a flower, someone's face, anything that is, or the cross-section of a cell with all this beautiful sacred geometry, do you know what happens? Our frequency goes up and goes in to the natural frequency and harmonics of this universe, of this planet. And so it brings well-being, it feels better. if people come to, I'm a coach and I help people with all sorts of things. Many people have gone through a lot of anxiety, of course, and there's all the reasons we know, a lot of mental health stresses, a lot of feeling overwhelmed. I will say to them, okay, your prescription is throw away your pills, go into nature, breathe, close your eyes, connect with yourself, feel your connection in this moment, in this planet. Nature does that. Nature is the best antidepressant ever. Fresh air, going out, looking at nature. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Thank
I
you.
love that. So we're going to
Nearly there.
we're going to end with just one last question.
Yes.
So how do you feel now, you know, you with your son, with your life after this, which has basically been an extraordinary adventure in every sense of the word? You know, you've battled the demons and the dragons, and you faced death and gone to the other side and come back and had your house burnt down. I mean, it's epic, your story. And what's it feel like being you now compared to you maybe before all of this began?
Yeah, well, I'm a deeper character. I'm a more worn character. I have the same appearance, but my operating system is completely different. My heart is completely different. I open up and lead with my heart as much as I can. And so I find that I feel life very differently. I am very sensitive. I'm sensitive to noise, to environments. I can't hang out with the people I used to hang out with, for example, in some cases. My friends have changed. My interests have changed. What I do changes. I can't do the party thing. I live in Ibiza a lot of the time. I can't do the party thing. I've never been great at it. I've always preferred a smaller group and more deeper chats. But I can't do the blah, 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 can't listen to complaining and negativity. So I'm very much curate my world much more carefully now. I can't hang out if it's not a comfortable situation. I'm a leaver. I have to go. So life has changed a lot. What I do every day, who I do it with, what I talk about, what I think about, what I read, and what I read. So, for example, no news, unless it's not fear-based and it's nice news. I'm happy with that. So I have to be very careful what I read these days, because I am just a sensitive soul now, very sensitive.
So for me, what I'm hearing is that your minutes are sacred now, or you value.
Yes. I'm doing a TEDx talk next month, and I'm talking about lessons. And one of my lessons you've just nailed, it is every moment and every day is so precious. And we have to think about how we spend those days. And me having thought I might only have a few days left, boy, does that sharpen the mind. This has to be a good day today and tomorrow. One thing, and Steve Jobs says something great, you know, we have to live life like there is no tomorrow, because one day that will be true. We will die. So bring presence to every day and really live it. It could be your last. So enjoy it. Don't mess or waste it. Don't waste this lifetime, because it's very precious.
That was amazing.
Oh, Susie, thank you so much. I feel so honored to have spoken with you.
Well, it's an honor to speak, and
I'm very excited to
enjoy being on this film. So, and thank you for everyone who's going to watch this film.